Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Slash It podcast. My name is Jared, and this episode is a little different than you were probably expecting or know about. We will get to part two of the zombie genre podcast episode. This is going to be a very interesting, kind of fun video or podcast, I should say, for you guys to listen to. Um, so basically, what happened here was the I had the chance to watch a short film entitled All You Can Eat. This is an interview with the director Kieran Reed. So he lives in the UK. I live in America, so the interview is not the same because just scheduling these interviews are very difficult to do if you live 4 hours apart, or as much as it would be between me and the UK. So what I decided to do is just send him a list of questions for him to answer, and he sent me those recordings back, and they're good. He did a very good job. So basically what I'm going to do now is let him talk. If I feel like I need to jump in and explain the question or the question I was asking or whatever, I don't think I will, but if you'll hear me then. Otherwise, you will hear me at the end of the podcast just to end things out, give shout outs, all those types of things. But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and here we go with the interview for All You Can Eat. This is Kieran Reed.
Recording. Hello, my name is Kieran Reed. I'm the director of All You Can Eat. I'd like to say thank you to the Slash It guys for asking me to record this interview. But I've got a bit of advance warning for you. I am absolutely fucking awful at talking about myself or doing interviews. So I apologise if I ramble or talk bollocks or it's just very dull for you. The guys at Slash It give me a few questions to help me talk about the film, and I'll try and address those and generally give you an insight into what I was doing with All You Can Eat, and hopefully it will help you enjoy the film. Right, I'll get straight onto it. So the first question that Jared asked me was, what influenced me in my choice of setting the film in the 80s? It's a good question, but it's an odd one because it's not really set in the 80s. It's a kind of idyllic horror era of something that's from the 1950s through to the 1980s. But also, Nola, the main character, is constantly playing on her mobile phone, which brings it right up to present day. So like I say, it's not really set in one particular time. I wanted it to be sort of timeless in that extent, but the kind of era which was where horror was at its best, which generally is the 80s. I mean, Jared went on to ask me to say that the whole movie felt like it was something you'd find in 1983 at 3 a.m. in a video shop, which is exactly what I'm after. So it's great that he picked up on that kind of thing. It's, to me, the 80s style, or the films you like Jared said, would have found in a video shop back then. The kind of film was you just didn't know what you were going to expect from the film. It could have been anything. It could have been utter rubbish or just an absolute hidden gem. The horror world was open and anything went. So it's a time which I look back fondly of and recall doing exactly that, stumbling across great videos and just crazy films. He asked if it was a conscious decision to mix the cheesiness and the gore. Oh, most definitely a conscious decision. There was something very cheesy about the films of the 80s. I mean, I don't know if it was necessarily kind of a conscious thing on their part, but the way they were filmed, there was a warmth to them and a fun to them. But at the same time, they did not hold back on some of the gore, and I wanted exactly that in my films. So we went for it. The cheesiness was. I always said to all the people that were working with me, the actresses and the actors and even the crew, that it's we're playing it straight. You know, the whole thing was played straight. The cheesiness, as Jared says, and the comedy element of it comes from the sheer stupidness of the scenario, the crazy idea that a killer burrito can just start spawning and just killing everybody within the restaurant. That itself is just madness. So we didn't need to push the comedy or anything like that. I think that spoke for itself. So we concentrated on making the whole thing as amazing as we could within the gore and the creatures and the stories. You know, the whole thing has to really work together. Was there a specific director that influenced, or was it a mixture of influences? It was there wasn't a specific director really. I mean, there was always the fact that we just loved sort of Frank Hennon l'Auteur and the classic, you know, Wizard of Gore, Herschel Gordon Lewis craziness. But it wasn't a particular director that influenced us when we were putting the film together and going to and deciding to make it. It was more, like I've said before, like it was the full era of those films. We're trying to encapsulate the full feeling of the 1980s. With numerous directors. I mean, Street Trash was one of the main influential films on the film, along with like Deadly Spawn, Critters. There was just a whole range of films, with no single one was a specific influence towards the film, and I think that's better because it was. You can very easily kind of find yourself copying something or someone when we didn't want to do that. We wanted to have our own feel but call on those influences. Hopefully it's come across, and I don't read. No one's ever said, "Oh, it's like so and so," which it might be a bad thing, but it might. We see it as a good thing because we feel that it's kind of got our mark on it, but within a genre that is, very kind of like visual. You can see it is that style of that ilk, of the Street Trash ilk, of the Brain Damage and Basket Case ilk. So yes, short answer, no, it's no real influence directors, but the whole 1980s horror was an influence. The gore, yes, the gore obviously is a massive part of a creature feature. We had a concept, an idea of what we wanted to make, in the style of a classic 1980s gore creature feature, and we had a loose script concept of the story, but because the building of the gore and the setup of the gore and the gags, it takes so long, really, even at that level, even at the level we were trying to get. What we did is we had some really good talented people that are making the creature effects, but we found ourselves having to sort of knock it back a bit to bring it into sort of like realms of a 1980s style. So you couldn't get too clever with it. It had to be almost, again I keep going back to Jared calling things cheesy, it had to be have a cheat element of cheese to it, to give it that authentic feel from the 80s. So it was a bit more complicated than we thought, but anyway, what I'm getting at is we had to spend months and months and months developing the gags and the gore prior to any rest of the working out of the film. So the kind of question was it shot over a few days or all at once? It was shot over such a long time. One single gag would be a full day. I think it was, for example, the burrito vomit stuff. Yeah, that was, a day rigging, a day sourcing the right kind of green guacamole substance that it could puke out, and a day shooting. It's kind of so I think pretty much every single gag probably took a day. So yeah, you're looking at probably a couple of weeks of individual days on each shot there. But it's an area that I didn't mind doing because it's enjoyable, and when it's got to be shot right and it's got to look right. So yeah, really enjoyable, and I will do it all again, and I hope to do it all again. When it came to actually shooting All You Can Eat, I'd spent the prior months and months working on the development, on the storyboards and on the shot lists and everything, and we settled on an October shoot after getting the crew and the cast all together. But there was something also, and I realised we'd shot the gore sequences, which I said to you earlier, we'd shot over months prior. Some of them had leaves on the trees and on the bushes, and for continuity's sake, I had to obviously in October the trees and bushes were losing the leaves, so I had to postpone everything till spring the next year, and which is fine. But then all of a sudden the whole world went fucking nuts, and they locked themselves down, and we weren't allowed to do anything. So I had to put the whole thing on hold for a year, and it was really complicated because I had to keep everyone enthusiastic to sort of hang around, all the cast and the crew. Not actually just do nothing, but just to be there for when the world did wake up and we could shoot. During the lockdown year of, what was that, 2020, it was we had absolutely scorching April. So I thought to myself, well, if we shot it in April, then we're shooting nights. We can get long hours because the clocks don't go back, and the weather's warm. So that's what we did. We put it off till the following April 2021, and eventually got everyone together and started shooting on I can't remember, it was something really close to the beginning of April. Only to find it the most fucking freezing April that I've known for years and years and years. So the initial morale of the crew wasn't great. At one point, Verity Hayes, who plays Nola, said that if she's got to take her clothes off, so have we. Which she didn't have to take her clothes off. What she was talking about was taking her coat off, because she had a short-sleeved, like waitress's dress on. We didn't quite go that far. But generally, apart from the cold, people were good. There was it's a strange, the whole film, and keeping people's interest up was a strange scenario, because it essentially is a low budget schlock stupid horror, but we were shooting it as though we were shooting a period drama. It's all straight shots as best we could light it. We were serious about every single aspect of the whole shooting sequence. The DOP went in, looked at lighting, looked at camera angles. The cast and the crew were helpful any way they can, just to make the whole thing work as well as it could and be shot as well as it could. But at the base of it, we were shooting a silly, crazy horror film. I did spend many hours telling people there is a method behind this madness. I do have like a vision for this thing, which isn't going to be so bargain basement that no one's ever going to take any notice of it. I did have hopes for it, that it would be elevated a little bit above the stupidity that initially sounded like, killer burritos. So, but everyone was great. So we had a really good time. Input from I heard, a policy where anyone who had an idea could air it, could get on set, and we could possibly shoot it. There were probably a couple of sequences where somebody suggested it, and we went, okay, let's try it. And we set things up and we shot it like that. So, the atmosphere and the environment of the set was great. There were some crazy times, like we didn't make it into the film, but we spent an entire day squirting a syringe full of blood onto Nola's cheek as though she got splashed by something. And that's one of those things I always remember a Terry Gilliam story about hamster wheel. And once we shot this syringe full of blood being shot onto the cheek over and over and over again. And I was just thinking about this Terry Gilliam hamster wheel story. You'll have to look it up. But again, everyone was great. You know, I think I couldn't fault anybody, and I think they had a great time. In fact, I know everyone has come to me in the past and said, "No, I had a great time on that. Let's do another one." So, looking forward to the next one. So, answer the long story short, it was great. It was great on set.
The question that I asked here was about how long he had the idea for All You Can Eat before it turned into the short that we saw it as, and I believe I asked him if he wanted to turn it into a feature as well.
All You Can Eat was always a much bigger project. I initially wrote a feature script, which is it's got a working title of Toxic Burrito, but I didn't want to. It's a huge world that the Toxic Burrito script's from, so I wanted to sort of take a piece of it just to see and do a proof of concept. Initially, I was going to do like a trailer, but I've been down that road before, and really to shoot a good trailer, you kind of almost need to shoot a film to have the elements to put together in a trailer. So I looked at taking a little chunk or sequence from the feature script and turned it into a short. So initially I just took out one scene and it started to work on it and develop it for a short. And it very quickly became apparent that I needed to sort of build a bit of context around the short. Yeah, you couldn't just pluck the sequence out and shoot that. It wouldn't really have made sense as much as All You Can Eat makes sense. But so yeah, I mean the answer to the question is there is a feature that I would absolutely love to do. Like I said, it's the working title of it is a Toxic Burrito, and that's why in All You Can Eat it says a Toxic Burrito story. I am looking to get a pitch deck together to pitch that, and I'm looking to get some solid funding before I shoot that. I think the vision I've got for that and the production design it needs to have a bit of money behind it, really, to do it justice. So I'm going to be working on the pitch deck and everything, and some concepts for that, for the entire feature. But what I have got in mind is a second short within the same world as well. We shot a lot of footage which, like I said to you, there's a syringe shot and things, other things which didn't quite make it or didn't sit in the short, didn't work in the short for whatever reason. But they're great sequences. Got some great, and you know, like I said to you before, the work that goes into some of the special effects and the creature work, it's a shame to waste it. So I think I've got enough for another short film that also sits within inside the Toxic Burrito universe. I'm quite excited about that. So no doubt. You'll hear me rattling on about that in social media soon, because I'm starting to develop it, hopefully shooting it next year. As far as the characters in All You Can Eat and their roles, they all exist in the feature script, and to a greater extent all of them have a lot more background to them. In particular, at the very end of All You Can Eat, there's a post-credit sequence where this mysterious person is sifting through the remains of what presumably is Nola. I don't want to give anything away for people who haven't seen, but this person is very, very important in the overall main feature script, so they will feature heavily. What else? I've got another project which is entirely out of this Toxic Burrito world, but it's another genre which I also love, along with the 80s creature feature. This one is more of a Mario Bava kind of witch period thing, which very interesting. But as soon as you mention the word period, you just get just complications from costs. So I'm looking into that one separately, but yeah, something to look out for. What else? So yeah, no, that's about it really. I think if you can catch the short at www.flyingeyeball.co.uk/AYCE, as well as the trailers on there, and there's also some downloadable kind of press kit, flyers, posters, things like that. It's all good stuff. And yeah, thank you very much, guys. Hopefully this is all right. I haven't bored you too much. Let me know. Feedback would be great. If anyone likes the film, if anyone hates the film, fair play. Any feedback's great. And thanks a lot. Take care and bye.
Well, I mean that's it. I really loved hearing all of his little insights and how the short came to be, and just all the little insights to all of that. But yeah, you can go find all those links that he mentioned and more, probably, potentially, in the links below, in the description of the podcast or in the YouTube video. You can follow me. It's at Twitter. On Twitter, it is @/horror. I got more stuff coming up, more ideas. Honestly, that's about it. But thank you guys for just listening and hanging out with me and just kind of doing my thing. Well, like always, remember, treat every day like it's Halloween.